Thank you, good people, for hanging on to this episode of the Real Leaders Podcast with Warwick Fairfax. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Warwick, we had a few questions fly in during the show and a lot of good questions here. First one is this. When hiring a key executive, do you think it's important to choose someone who has a major setback?
Interesting. I would say if they've suffered a major setback and have bounced back from it, they've learned something from it, I'd say you might ask them, so if you suffered a major setback, and if they say yes, well, tell me what you've learned from it. If they say nothing, don't hire them. If they say, well, I learned to make sure that next time I'll make sure the other guy loses, wrong answer. But if you feel like they've said, they say, you know what, I've grown as a human being, I've learned something about myself, about how to avoid making those mistakes, of how life is not so much about me, about others. Based on their response to that, you can say a lot. Now, I wouldn't say don't hire a person that's gone through a major setback, but I'd say more if you've gone through a major setback and you feel like that person has learned a lot from it, has become a better person, that should give them a leg up over the other people you're considering.
I think it's a good answer. And also just to touch on that real quick, Warwick, is do you ever compare setbacks? Because I think, if I were to lose my leg, as a Navy SEAL, that would be a major setback. However, the mental and the mind games might be about equal to something else.
It's funny. I'm often embarrassed in the sense that I went through a devastating emotional, psychological, yes, I probably lost billions of dollars, but I was never on the street. We were always okay financially, and now we're probably, more than okay. Not at the same level, but, more than enough for us. So whether it's with a Navy SEAL or, people have been abused or what have you, it's easy to feel embarrassed. And I'll say, look, my Crucible is obviously not on the same level of yours. Pretty much every single person will say, you know what, it's not a competition. Your worst moment is your worst moment. And so I can't tell you how many people have said that, who objectively I think have gone through much worse than I have. Is your worst day is your worst day. It was crushing to you, it was crushing to you. So it's not a competition just to see who's had the worst life, right? It's like who's had the worst physical, psychological, don't be, if you feel derailed by what you've gone through, don't apologize for it. Don't feel embarrassed. I mean, it's real to you, right? So yeah, I think that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, and I like your answer then if they say nothing in terms of hiring somebody, because we've all gone through some type of crucible. Right. It's just different for everybody. Absolutely. Got another question coming in here. You provide some valuable and honest insights about the pressures you faced around the environment you were in. So what lessons could you pass along to others in similar situations?
Boy, I'm biased. I must confess, I'm not a big fan of family businesses. This is probably not good advice, but it's like, leave, get out, don't do it. But that may be the wrong advice. It's so tough to live in the footsteps of generations. I mean, it can work. I'd say, if you want to stay in the family business, you got to be really, really, really sure you want to do it for you. I would almost err on the side of guilty until proven innocent. Like, if I was mom or dad, I'd say, okay, you got to prove to me that you really want to do this for you, or otherwise I'm going to really discourage you from doing this, So it can work, but it's so difficult when there's generations and expectations, and I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wired to duty, loyalty, and all that. It would have been so tough to find my own voice within the family business because I was so focused on living the role that I thought needed to be lived. I mean, I don't think I really could. I mean, I'm more fully me than I've ever been. Could I have been fully me and be in that family business? It's possible, but I would say it's like how possible is it to get 99.9% on a test? It's possible, like consistently, but it's very difficult. The bar would have been so high that it's possible, but I personally don't know that I could have being my true self and being in that family business. It would have been so tough. So,
Or thanks for being so honest today and all your answers. That's all we can hope for guests that come on this show, and just to keep it real with our audience today. So appreciate you doing that. Where you have a book, you have a podcast, you have a website. Where can people find more information about your good work?
Absolutely. Crucibleleadership.com is the best place. I have a book coming out October 19 that talks about my story, talks about some of history's greatest leaders, and more importantly, in more detail, how do you bounce back from devastating crucible experiences to live a life of significance? On the podcast, which comes out about once every week beyond the crucible, we talk a lot to guests who've gone through devastating crucibles, and really we're all about hope. How do you find hope amidst your worst moment? How do you stop your worst day from defining you? You're better than your worst moment. And we often find amidst the ashes of your crucible that an exciting new journey can come from that. So, we're sort of dealers in hope and a will. So the website, podcast, and book, they're all sort of parables, if you will, parables of hope. So that's what we're about.
Well, I think it's much needed, especially in this post-pandemic kind of stage we're in, where if you listen to any podcast that was recorded and we were all saying, oh, we're all going to be partying in the streets, everything is just taking a little bit longer, and yet that's kind of taken away from us. So things are changing, and people need some advice, some hope. Crucibleleadership.com. Folks, everyone on Crowdcast and on LinkedIn, thank you for being here today. There's a nice little shiny green button right there. It says leave a review. If you thought this was helpful, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Let us know what you thought and how we can improve. If you're also making change in your community, email us at be@real-leaders.com. That's be@real-leaders.com. Lastly, folks, if your organization is one of those organizations that's a purpose-driven, mission-driven organization trying to make change in the world, go online to realleaders.com/impact-awards. Be recognized in our top impact companies list in 2022. Super early bird rates going on right now at realleaders.com/impact-awards. Warwick, thank you so much for your time today, my friend. And always keep it real.
Thanks a lot, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Take care.